Hey guys, good morning. It is Wednesday. It's June 3rd, 2020. Welcome to Work on It Wednesday. So let's get started. Let's take out our breathing tool and let's take 3 big deep breaths together. And remember, you can say the tagline in your head, which is, I calm myself and check in. Good job, guys. So go ahead and take out your breathing tool and let's take 3 big deep breaths together. Last one. All right, good job. Oh my gosh, it's so hot. In fact, that's sort of my first feeling. I'm feeling uncomfortable. I have a couple reasons for feeling uncomfortable, but for one, it's really warm. I feel physically uncomfortable, and when it's warm, I know on like warm days, I have to work a little bit harder to keep myself in the green zone because for whatever reason, I think there's obvious reasons. When it's hot, I sort of have like less patience. I get tired easily. I get really overwhelmed easily. So I already know I'm gonna have to drink lots of water today. I'm gonna have to like take breaks today and just like be easy on myself today. Is anybody else like that when it's really hot? Yeah. And I'm uncomfortable just still with everything that's going on. I still have uncomfortable feelings. I also have this one. If you guys remember this guy, it's insecure. I'm still feeling insecure. I'm still feeling upset. I still have big feelings, guys. I unfortunately hear stories of choices that people are making that's not in support of the protesters, and it's not in support of anti-racism, and it does make me feel really insecure, and it does make me feel really uncomfortable. So that's kind of where I'm sitting today. I'm definitely not in the green zone today, but that's okay. I have tools that are going to help me. What about you guys? How are you feeling today? Let's take our time to turn and talk with our family if we're with them. Take out your journal, take out that email to me, write down, express, talk about how you're feeling and why. So go ahead and press pause and do that now. All right, good job, guys. Welcome back. It's Work on It Wednesday, and if you remember, the tool that we worked on yesterday was the empathy tool. I care for others, I care for myself. Did anybody else work on balancing caring for yourself as well as caring for others? If you remember the tool, it's the bubble level, and the goal is to balance how you treat yourself with how you treat others, and once you can find the balance, that's when you have empathy. So I today think it's pretty important that we work on this tool because this is an extremely important tool. It's relevant to what we're going through as a nation. It's relevant to what we're going through as an entire globe. It's relevant to what we're going through in our homes. And so I want to just spend a little extra time explaining and practicing our empathy tool. So the basic gist of what is empathy, it's being able to put yourself in someone's shoes. It's being able to understand, listen, and take in the perspective of another person without it being about you, basically. So we sometimes will hear something that we don't understand, and maybe it makes us feel a little uncomfortable, but we can find a way to understand why somebody might say it. We might see somebody do something like yesterday, Adrian Sincox was lying, and we saw how his classmate just really did not like being lied to, but when she responded to him only thinking of herself, he felt really bad, and it didn't make her feel level. It didn't make her feel good. And then once she started to understand, like, wow, okay, so he's lying because that's what he needs for himself. He doesn't have a lot, and he's coming up with this story because he has a great imagination. She was able to level it out a little bit. Like, she doesn't like that he was lying, but she understands, and she understands that it's not about wanting to hurt. That is empathy. So I actually thought that today what I would do is read you a book that is it's called Standing in My Shoes. And I would say, if I was in a classroom, I hope I can do this with you next year, I would bring in a bunch of shoes, like big shoes, little shoes, and we would stand in them. If we can't put our feet in them, we would stand just right behind them, and we would literally imagine, what do we think it feels like for the person who wears these shoes? What are they thinking? What is their day like? How are they feeling? What bothers them? What could you do to help that person? So we would literally try to visualize and practice putting people's shoes on and imagining what it feels like to be them. But since we're not together, I thought that this book would help us with a similar exercise. So I'm going to read this to you, and then I'm going to share a quick activity that I want you guys to do at home with your families. And it is sort of like the activity I just described, but I think you'll get the gist of it. Okay, so oh my goodness, before I start, I'm so sorry, I'm all over the place. I've got Lovey Dove here. Lovey Dove is the perfect example of empathy and why the balance is so important. So what you guys know about Lovey Dove, first of all, we love Lovey Dove. Oh. What we know about Lovey Dove is that she is so incredibly kind and caring, and she is the best listener. Her listening tool is constantly being used. She loves to look at you when you talk. She loves to listen to the words that you're saying and really hear, how passionate you are, how upset you are, and she listens with her heart. She cares about what it is that you're expressing, and she's so great at taking herself out of it, really fully listening and understanding what a person feels and why. It's a huge strength of hers. However, something that she has to work on, and this is why I wanted to bring her up, is she almost has, is this real, too much empathy. And when somebody says oh, actually that person has too much empathy, it is true. There are some people who their empathy actually makes their day harder. And that's why understanding the empathy tool is very important. Understanding what empathy is one thing, but knowing how to use the tool to balance your life, that's what's really important here with this lesson. Because Lovey Dove is a friend who has an abundance of empathy. In fact, I want to say 99% of her day she spends caring for others, listening to others, and putting herself in others' shoes. The issue is she doesn't take the time for herself. So she's actually not very balanced. She's constantly putting others' needs, others' feelings, others' perspectives before hers, and because of that, she actually worries quite a bit. So there is such a thing as not using your empathy correctly, and that's something that Lovey Dove does. So I wanted to just really quickly share Lovey Dove's perspective and explain having empathy is beautiful, but empathy goes both ways. It doesn't just always go for other people. You want to remember that your shoes are important too. It's great to stand in other people's shoes, but empathy tool is about the balance of caring for others while also caring for yourself. Okay, thank you for that. Let's read this book, and let's see, what does it mean to stand in someone's shoes? This is written by Bob, I think it's Sornin. It's a Kids Learning About Empathy. Okay. Gotta do my book adjustment. Can you guys see? I hope. Emily, this is the 4th time you've barged into my room. I'm trying to study for a big test. I just want to talk to you, Emily whined. Alicia closed her book and said, "Can you have a little empathy?" Emily had no idea what her big sister meant. What's empathy? Empathy is when you understand how someone is feeling because you imagine what it's like to be them and stand in their shoes. People are grateful when you notice how they feel. I'm worried about my test, and I'd really appreciate if you'd scram so I can study. Emily was grumpy as she left her sister's room, but she thought about Alicia's words. Would people really appreciate it if she noticed how they felt? The next morning, Emily went to the kitchen for breakfast. Her dad was making coffee and spilt some coffee grounds. He didn't look very happy. "Dad, are you in a hurry?" she asked. "Yes, sweetie. I have a big presentation at work and I need to get going." Emily found a wet dish rag. "You look tired, Dad. How about I clean the coffee while you get your other stuff together? Would that help?" For a moment, Emily's dad just looked at her. Then he hugged her. "You're the best, Em," he said as he grabbed his coat and hurried out to the back door. It was drizzly outside as Emily waited for the school bus. As she pulled up, one of the older kids accidentally knocked into a little girl as she was getting onto the bus. Rosie lost her balance and sat hard down on the wet cement. "Hey!" yelled Emily. "Watch out for the little kids." Then Emily turned to the little girl. "Well, that's a yucky way to start the day." "I'm okay," Rosie replied, but she shrugged with her heavy backpack. Emily took Rosie's hand and pulled her up, then helped her onto the bus. In class, Mrs. Fitch was not her usual laughing self. After the morning writing lesson, Mrs. Fitch went back to her desk instead of walking around the classroom like she usually did. Emily noticed that her teacher's eyes were red and she wiped her nose on a tissue. "Mrs. Fitch, is there something wrong?" "My dog Buster died last night," she said quietly. "He was very sick. We were hoping he'd get better, but he didn't." "No," said Emily. I'm not sure how you feel, but it has to hurt." "It does. Thank you for asking." In the cafeteria, she noticed Mrs. Waddles struggling to lift a tray of steamed vegetables into its place on the serving line. "That sure looks heavy," said Emily. "It is," Mrs. Waddles said. "I get a workout every day when I serve lunch." "That's quite a load of stuff," Emily said to Mr. Redmond as he pushed the cart down the hall. "I just hope I don't run somebody over," he said. Emily decided to walk in front of the cart, yelling in her loud, clear voice, "Coming through! Art cart coming through!" "Get out of my way," Tommy said as he pushed Samantha, Emily's friend, out of the line. "It's my turn." Tommy did this a lot at recess. "Tommy, how do you like it if I pushed you out of line when you were waiting your turn?" How would you feel? "Probably not good," Tommy yelled. "I love the tire swing. Samantha loves it as much as you do, so don't push her and try to take cuts, okay?" "Sorry," mumbled Tommy as he walked to the end of the line. After school, Mr. Peterson said, "Hello, Emily. I hope you had a wonderful day." She stopped and looked at him. I did have a wonderful day, but Mr. Peterson, every day you say something nice to me. You never forget. As she walked to her seat, Emily could hear Mr. Peterson greet each child as they got on the bus. She sat down next to Samantha. When the seats were almost full, Rosie rushed onto the bus, out of breath. Oh no, there isn't a place for me. Emily nudged Samantha, and then she asked her to slide over. Rosie, you can sit with us. I can? Thanks. When Emily got home, her mom asked, How was your day, Em? You look deep in thought. I'm fine, but I'm wondering about something. What's that? You always seem to notice how I'm feeling. Part of being a mom. But how about you? Who notices how you're feeling? Asked Em. Wow, Em, said her mom. That's a very thoughtful question. I guess the answer is Aunt Clara and my friends Nancy and Shauna, and mostly your dad, sometimes Alicia, and now you. Why do you ask? Just wondering, said Emily. I'm starving. Is there anything good to snack on? Let's make something together. It was almost bedtime. Emily could see Alicia studying in her room. Instead of barging in, Emily knocked on the door. Can I come in? Or are you busy? You look like you want to talk, said Alicia. Come on in. I've been noticing how people feel, Emily said. You know that empathy stuff? So what happened? What did you learn? People really like it when you recognize how they feel. Just noticing seems to touch their hearts. You got it, Em. But there's something more. When I care enough to notice how others feel, something changes inside of me, explained Emily. It sounds like you enjoyed that feeling. Yes, I do, replied Emily. Good. Now get out of here so I can study. All right. So that is the Standing in My Shoes book. I think it's actually a really good example of the many different ways that you can show compassion and, give a little to the people that you're standing in their shoes. So empathy is, like I had mentioned, understanding the perspective of somebody, understanding how and why a person might feel that way. There's like an extra little step, though, to empathy, and it's called compassion, showing compassion for a person. And what you see Emily do in this book is she definitely shows empathy, right? There's multiple examples of her showing empathy. One of them being with her dad, noticing that he looked rushed, that he didn't look like his usual self. And so she showed compassion for him by helping him, cleaning up after him, and letting him get on his day. She also showed compassion for Rosie when she fell. She helped her up, kind of stuck up for her a little bit. She showed compassion for her teacher when she asked, "Are you okay?" Because she noticed. She noticed that her teacher didn't look the same, and she heard her out, and she even acknowledged, "I don't know what that feels like, but it probably hurts." That is the empathy piece. But even just saying, like, "I hope you feel better," that's you having compassion for somebody and kind of offering some sort of way to help. But one thing I wanted to comment on was these couple of pages. This one right here in particular. Some people might ask, like, well, how is that, like, showing empathy? All she did was say, that sure looks heavy. Well, a lot of times people work really, really hard. people work hard all day and nobody says a word to them. And it's on those days that you work really hard and nobody notices. It's those days that you don't really feel very encouraged. You don't have a lot of uplifted feelings. Think about all the times that you're in class or even at home and you work really, really hard and your teacher or your parents comment on it. They tell you, wow, I love how hard you're working. Wow, I can see you put a lot of thought into that. That feels good. That's being compassionate and that's having empathy for how hard that person must be working. And so she did that here. Like, wow, that sure looks heavy. Really just acknowledging, like, I can tell you're working really hard. That is a beautiful, simple way that you can show empathy to somebody. But there are so many ways in this book that she takes a step back and she doesn't think about herself, but instead she looks at the person and she reads them and she understands that how that person is feeling and tries to understand why. That's so beautiful. So one activity I thought that would be kind of fun, I did attach a document to the Parent Square message, and it's just like a worksheet, and it's called Empathy, What It's Like in Their Shoes. I made it in my journal as per usual, but you guys can print out the one I attached, or you can just make it like me. And basically what you're going to do is I want you guys to put yourself in the shoes of your family members, the people that you live with, the people that you're currently in a home with. So if it's just like you and mom, if it's just you and your dads, if it's you and like 4 siblings and your aunt and your uncle and your grandma and your parents, oh, you got a lot of work to do. But you're just going to be better at this than us. So whoever you're living with, it could even be your dog, okay? Include your dogs. Our animals have beautiful feelings, and we should absolutely empathize with them as well. So what you're going to do is you're going to literally not literally, you can go put their shoes on and think about it, but you're going to literally think about what it would be like to be in your family member's shoes. So for example, this is actually kind of hard for me, this first one. I put Raymond, who is my husband, and the first question says, what bothers them? The reason I say that this is hard is not because I don't have empathy for my husband, but anybody that knows him knows that, like, not that much bothers him. So I tried to think of, like, what are some things that do bother him. One of them is I am kind of the worst at, like, putting my dishes away after eating. I'm like, that's just my thing. It's just not something I'm good at yet. I'm working on it. So I put, not putting my dishes away. And then the next one is how do they feel about it, basically. And so I put, he feels frustrated, and I imagine that he feels like undervalued. Like I imagine he feels like I expect him to do it for me, and that's probably really frustrating and annoying. And so what can I do? This is the compassion part. This is the part where it's not just like looking at how that person feels and why. It's, okay, I'm going to take the next step, and now that I acknowledge and understand how you feel, like, what am I going to do about it? So what can I do? I can start putting my dishes away. I'm going to work on it, you guys. And then I did my 2 sons. So I'll just share Rory. So Rory, I put what bothers him is when I work too much. He's so frustrated lately. I've been working way too much. It's just like nonstop right now. And he's been getting really frustrated with me, and he's been sharing his feelings with me. And so I said that he feels like sad and lonely. And what can I do is I can make it clear, what is my work time and what is his time, and I can close my computer at the same time every day and spend all the time I can with him so he doesn't feel that way, and there's more of a balance. So, think about the people in your family. Think about the feelings that they have, and yeah, put yourself in their shoes. And when you do come up with what can you do, try it. Do it, just like Emily does. Try it out and see how you feel after you do it. Does it make you feel better? Does it maybe balance you a little bit more? So go ahead, work on that today. Work on your empathy tool. Balance yourself out. Put your family shoes on. How do they feel and why? And if you guys have any really good ones, I want to know. Send me which family member you put their shoes on, how they felt, what you're going to do to help them with that tough feeling, the thing that bothers them. And if you're having trouble, if you're a lovey-dove and you're like, Miss Jen, I'm having trouble balancing my empathy tool, reach out to me. Please come talk to me. I'm here for you. But that's all I got for you today. Another long video. I am so sorry. I have so much to talk about when it comes to empathy. I will just add one extra thing. I am using this tool so much right now. I am doing my best to put myself in the shoes of people who are in a lot of pain right now, the people that we're seeing on the news, whether it be family members of the person who died, or whether it be our police officers, or whether it be our protesters. I have been putting myself in their shoes in the best way that I can, and it is really hard, but I'm doing it every day. And I feel more patient because of it, and I feel like I'm understanding what's happening more because of it. So I really want to encourage you guys to practice this. I love you guys. Tomorrow, oh my gosh, tomorrow's Thursday, so we're going to be thoughtful tomorrow. I've got a really great book to read to you tomorrow, so please come. And yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great Wednesday, you guys. Bye.